What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well. And let's start with today's story. Am I the a-hole for disowning my wife's daughter after she chose her mom's affair partner over me? I, 35, male, met my soon-to-be ex-wife, 33, female, during university 12 years ago. She already had a kid when she was 19, but the dad left as soon as she started university. We were dating for 3 months before I met her daughter, Lisa. I remember seeing her family for the first time. I was nervous meeting her parents, but when I saw a little girl beside her mom, I was confused. I asked her if that was her little sister or a cousin of hers, and her answer shocked me. When she told me that that's her daughter, I thought I misheard her or something. At first, I wanted to dump her for hiding something so crucial from me, but she kept on begging for me to stay, and eventually I relented, and soon enough I started to fall in love with her daughter and wanted to be her father figure. Our bond grew stronger over the years, and in early 2019, before the pandemic hit, we got married. In late 2021, I adopted Lisa, and in early 2022, my wife gave birth to our son, Mark. After my son was born, my wife made the choice to stay at home for the time being, and I was completely fine with that. Everything was going perfectly until a few months ago. I started noticing my wife increasingly spending time with her friends. At the time, I didn't say anything since, in my mind, being at home all day probably meant eating at her, and I didn't want to seem controlling. The thing that made me suspicious was her constant texting and going out of the room for calls. She never did that for anyone besides this one friend of hers. I asked her about it, but she gave me some vague answers about gossip. The moment that took it too far, though, was when I came home last week and saw her outside talking on the phone. This wasn't out of the ordinary. I remember seeing my son on the floor crying alone. I was pissed at my wife for just leaving him alone in the house. But when I went to pick him up and smelt the horrible stench coming from him, I was beyond furious. His diaper seemed like it hadn't been changed since that morning. I quickly changed his diaper and rushed outside with him in my arms. I was beyond pissed. I snatched her phone from her hand and bolted back inside. I locked my wife outside to have a talk with this friend of hers alone. I had my suspicions about who it really was, and when I heard a male voice calling out her name and asking who was there, I immediately knew what was going on. He ended the call as soon as he heard my voice. I then proceeded to lock the front door to make sure my wife couldn't enter the house at all, and proceeded to screenshot as much of their chat as I could, and then sent them to myself before deleting them on her phone. About 5 minutes later, she was still banging on the glass door leading to the backyard. I reluctantly opened it and was met with a smack in the face. Remember, all of this is happening while I'm holding my toddler in my arms. As soon as she realized what she just did, she apologized profusely, started crying, and tried to hug me. I pushed her away and told her to meet me at the dining table. I told my daughter to quickly take care of the baby so me and her mom could have a quick chat. I just kept it simple. I told her this was her only chance to even have a sliver of a chance of getting me back. If she effed up this talk, it was over on the spot. No lies, nothing. She kept on trying to apologize and to say it wasn't that serious. I reminded her that she not only screwed me over, she could also have easily done serious harm to our son by leaving him alone in the house like that. I then simply asked who, for how long, and did they screwed? She replied with, her ex-boss Daniel, 6 months, and she didn't answer the last one, so I kept on reminding her that this was her last chance. She then just simply nodded. I then asked her if they used protection. To this, she started crying and started begging me for forgiveness. She said she would block him then and there, would never contact him again. I could screw any woman I want from now on. I guess Lisa heard the commotion and came downstairs. I told her to go back up, but she just walked to my wife and asked her if I knew about Daniel. Up to this point, I was calm, but upon hearing this, I swear even I started tearing up. I asked Lisa if she knew all along, and she said yes. At this point, I'm full on crying, and I asked her why she didn't tell me. She responded with, because unlike you, Daniel buys me the things I want without having to beg. I then asked her how she could possibly do this to her dad. She responded with the, you're not my real dad crap. My wife screamed at her upon hearing what she said. At that point, I couldn't bear any of this anymore. I just grabbed my son and got into the car. My son and I are currently staying at my parents' house. I've basically been drinking myself to sleep every day. Thanks to the saint of a mother I have, my son is being taken care of right now. I'm beyond hurt. I've canceled my ex-daughter's private school tuition, all her extracurricular activities, and I've contacted a divorce lawyer. He's going to serve my wife this Friday. My wife and Lisa have been blowing up my phone non-stop with apologies. I simply responded with, get a lawyer and tell that ungrateful thing of yours to start calling Daniel her dad. I'm disowning her. And then I blocked my wife. I didn't respond to Lisa, I just simply blocked her. I guess my wife told our friends what she and Lisa did, and now they have been texting me nonstop. They understand how I feel but believe I'm going too far by divorcing my wife without hearing her out. They also keep telling me that disowning Lisa is definitely going too far, and she's only a kid and didn't understand what she was doing. I just can't get over the things she told me. I've worked my arse off to give my wife and daughter luxuries I could have only dreamed off as a kid, and this is how I get paid back? Lisa, 13 years old, is old enough to understand that hiding her mom's affair is bad and definitely purposely used those words to hurt me. But a part of me believes that there is still hope. A few family counseling sessions later, and we can go back to living the life I once considered a fairy tale. I'm beyond destroyed by this whole situation. A part of me just wants to see them burn in hell, but the other part of me believes there is still hope. Am I really going too far? Is there still hope? Am I the a-hole for disowning my daughter and divorcing my wife? Stop drinking, man. Get a DNA test for your son. Proceed with the divorce, and if he is your son, push for full custody. And now to the update. First of all, I'm happy to report that I've quit alcohol. It was tough, but seeing how my life was basically falling apart due to my constant drinking really was a wake-up call for me. As someone kindly suggested, I asked my mom to throw out all the alcohol in her house. The first couple of days were tough with me being more depressed than ever, but I'm doing much better now. As for my wife, I've had a brief conversation with her, and I have halted all divorce proceedings for the time being. There is still a lot to navigate and a ton of logistics involved, and my decision for divorce seemed a bit in the heat of the moment. I'm not saying that I'm going back to her. I'm just saying I need to reevaluate everything again. What she did was beyond hurtful and irresponsible. If I were to get back with her, she has to do a lot to make up for this mess. I have removed half of the money in our joint account and have stopped paying the lease on my wife's car. I asked her the following questions. Has she been in contact with Daniel since our falling out? She said she has completely cut off contact with her ex-boss and is willing to do anything to make our marriage work. Why did she go to him, meet him in the first place? She said she honestly doesn't know. She met him at a get-together her old company held, and in her words, they just clicked. They started hanging out as friends, and soon things grew out of hand, and she started bringing him over to the house when I was at work. Did she have feelings for him while they worked together? She said she found him cute, but left it at that. They never did anything or said anything outside of work. I then started asking her questions about our daughter, Lisa. Some of you guys rightly pointed out that she probably poisoned her against me. I asked, why did she bring Daniel around our daughter? She said, Lisa once caught them making out on the couch, and when she threatened them to tell me, they quickly shut her up with gifts and a new phone, etc. And soon enough, Lisa actually started to like having Daniel around because of the gifts, etc. Another question. Did she badmouth me to Lisa? To this, she just went silent and started crying. I then pressed a bit more, and she finally blurted out that she started telling Lisa that Daniel was her bio dad. Not gonna lie, after this, I myself started crying and just hung up. I did see a change in my daughter around the same time, but I just chalked it up to her being a teenager. But hearing this just broke my heart even more. I also want to thank you guys for telling me that it wasn't right to put all the blame on my 13-year-old daughter. I wasn't thinking straight at the time, and when I started sobering up, I did sort of realize the mistake I made. I have unblocked my daughter and have been texting with her since yesterday. She has apologized to me, and it seems like my wife, in desperation to get me back, has confessed the truth to my daughter. My daughter told me that she has stopped talking with her mother since she confessed. I apologized to her for the comments I made about disowning her, and we have planned to meet up tomorrow at the local park. I again just want to sincerely thank you guys for the support and the advice. Honestly, I couldn't have navigated this mess alone while being intoxicated. Only God knows what would have happened if I didn't reach out. I also want to apologize for the drunken rant I went on in the comments. I'm beyond embarrassed at the things I said. Again, thank you all for the support and wish you all a wonderful weekend. And the edit. I forgot to mention the DNA test thing on my son. I do definitely acknowledge it being a possibility, but neither am I mentally in a place to be able to cope with the stress of something like that, nor am I ready to face the reality that I might look at him differently if the test turns out negative. I'll do it eventually, but not now during this mess. The level of disrespect she's shown is unbelievable. She brought her affair partner into the house you paid for and manipulated the stepdaughter you've raised since childhood. Don't take her back. She belongs to the streets. Next, the second story. Wife, 37 female, confessed to me, 36 male, that she wanted to leave me for another man, but she changed her decision because she fell in love with me again when I took care of her when she had cancer. I've been wanting to write this for a couple of days, but I kept postponing because I didn't have the strength to type this. But I finally have enough courage to talk about it now. My wife and I have been married for 10 years. We have 2 daughters. A couple of years ago, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was a really difficult time for us, but we got through it. I did everything to support her and take care of her. I was really happy for her when she finally recovered. But last week, when my wife and I were watching a movie and cuddling, she started crying and told me that I was the best thing that happened to her. But I was in for a shock. She told me that she fell in love with one of her colleagues before her diagnosis. They didn't have any sex, but they decided to tell their families and ask for a divorce. But after her diagnosis, he ghosted her. She tried reaching out to him, but he just blocked her. That is when she realized my value in her life. She quit her previous job. I was totally unprepared for this kind of revelation. She swears that they never had any sexual intimacy. They wanted to end things with their spouses before committing. She also tells me that I'm the most important person in her life and she'd do anything to make it up to me. I'm really conflicted. Like any marriage, our marriage had its share of troubles, but leaving her was never my solution. On the other hand, she tells me that our bond is stronger now. I don't know what to do, and I'm looking for any feasible advice. I don't know if she has my respect now, but I'm unable to function properly as a normal person now. I need help, but I don't want to talk about this to family and friends. Thank you for listening to me, guys. Too bad she didn't leave you earlier. They definitely had sex. Cheaters always try to minimize their actions. And that's it for today. Dear viewers, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out. Until next time, bye-bye.